Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's it going, everybody? Quick thought I wanted to share with everybody. Actually, it's something I found myself reflecting on after having just made Isha Salat and after having had listened to a couple of lectures, particularly from Sheikh Imran Hussein. But anyways, so the Prophet ﷺ said that there would come a time when nothing would remain of Islam but the exterior or the ritual. So meaning the salah, the outside, the clothing, all the outside stuff, all the ritual. I think that's the best way to put it, the ritualistic stuff. Meaning the actual substance inside would be devoid, the actual foundation of Islam would be not there. There are also other hadiths that support this. The one that comes to mind is Rasulullah ﷺ said there would come a time where people would recite the Quran, but it would not go by their throats, which essentially, Allahu Alam, indicates also that there is no penetration of the heart. The Quran would not be in the hearts of people and not govern their daily lives. It would not affect the way they live their lives. It would not be put into practice, just the recitation. So I found myself thinking of that, and I found myself reflecting on, well, what makes Islam what it is? What is necessary for Islam to be considered Islam, for it to be valid? So when those things are not around now. So the first that came to mind is Khalifa, which is essentially the head of the Ummah. So there is no longer a Khalifa. The second thing that came to mind is Darul Islam, which there is no longer Darul Islam. The entirety of the world, including Saudi, although some people I'm sure will say so. No. The Prophet ﷺ also said that a nation which inflicts the Sharia upon the poor and does not afflict it upon the rich is not Sharia. So no, Saudi is not Darul Islam. There is no Darul Islam. That's the reality. There's also yet another hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ was asked by one of his beloved companions, not to paraphrase it, essentially he told the Prophet ﷺ, everybody asked the Prophet ﷺ about the good things, but I would like to ask about the bad so that I would be prepared. So he asked the Prophet ﷺ if he would ever live to see a time of fitna, what he should do in that time. So the Prophet ﷺ instructed him, if you live to see the time of fitna, stick to the Khalifa. If there is no longer a Khalifa, stick to the Jama'ah. If there is no longer a Jama'ah, stay to your houses, stay away from the marketplace, and keep to your family, essentially, even if you have to bite the tops of your houses, the roofs of your houses to stay that way. So meaning no matter how boring and how painful it might be to avoid the outside world, to do that. All these things, again, that's really what I was reflecting on is how they kind of point to that's the time that we're living in now, and Allah knows best. But again, no Khalifa, which is the head of the Ummah, no Darul Islam, which obviously means that there's no actual Islam is not involved in any of the decision making of the world. Islam has no bearing on world events anymore. It's really only on an individual basis. And as far as Jama'at goes, how can we have a Jama'at when we have Sufi, Salafi, Ahmadiyya, every other ridiculous sect, and unfortunately now to the point where Salafi and Sufi are sects now too. You know, they don't integrate with each other, they don't mix with each other. And again, yet another hadith that talked about that the Prophet ﷺ said, there will come a time when your enemies gather around a table as if they're gathering to eat and plan how to destroy you and just go over how to destroy you. The Sahaba told the Prophet at this, will we be so few in number that they can do this to us? And the Prophet ﷺ replied to them, no, you will be many, but you will be like the scum upon the tide, the froth above the ocean. Just separate, you know what I mean? Just separate and spread out. So that leaves me with the thought of, right now the best that we can do as Muslims, and Allah knows best, is to really tend to our houses, tend to our own private and personal ibadah, and seek knowledge on our own, because there are agendas to unfortunately, there are agendas out there to some people, like for example Salafis, nothing against them, but there's a lot of Salafi brothers who say don't read hadith, If you're not a scholar, if you're not learned, don't read hadith. Don't read Quran. Don't interpret any Quran. Interpret, I can agree with, but the fact is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that there is one kind of person, a person who does this thing will receive hidayah, and only this person. And we all know knowledge, we can all gain knowledge, but hidayah can only come from Allah. Understanding only comes from Allah. Because even the kuffar, even people who hate Islam, they have understanding of the exterior. They can understand that which is plain and simple, the plain verses of Quran. But they can't receive hidayah about the meaning, especially the deeper meanings, especially when you go into things like ta'wil. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said very plainly, the one who receives hidayah in Al-Quran, He said, is the one who ponders upon my ayat, ponders upon the ayat. Now ayat is signs. Doesn't mean verses. It's translated in the English as verses, but really it means signs. It's the closest translation to it. So signs means Quran, obviously, number one, but it also means the outside world. The sun and the moon, the raising of the sun and the moon, the stars, the ecosystem, the unification of forces, how our physical universe, all these things. And Allah in the Quran also says that He has created creation to manifest the truth. Anyways, all these things, I don't want to go on for too long. It's already been 6 minutes I see here, but the one thing I want to say to everybody I care about who took the time to listen to this is really focus to having a relationship with the Quran. Not all of us are going to be hafizes. I cannot recite very well. I can just do enough to get by. But take time with what you can do. So if you can't understand Arabic, then read tafsir, read Quran. Don't just take what the sheikh and the scholar says and rely on them solely to receive, guidance, because Allah has already told us in the Quran, the one who's understand it, who's going to receive hidayah, which comes only from Allah, is the one who's going to take the time and ponder upon Allah's verses to you, ayats to you, signs to you, upon the Quran, upon life in general, upon what you see around you. And the Prophet ﷺ is giving us so many hadith talking about the things that would happen and that are happening in our lifetime, not for nothing. Because you'll also find brothers who say, don't think about those hadith, don't read those hadith, don't ponder those hadith, and they'll say because it's not beneficial to you. Brother, did the Prophet ﷺ ever say anything to us that was not of benefit? Of course not. Everything he said was of benefit, was for our benefit. So again, just something to think about as we face the challenges that we're facing nowadays. And I just wanted to share that. I'm not sure why. Hopefully it'll be of some benefit. Maybe it'll make us, whoever's watching, taking the time to watch this, think about your own Islam, and think about how you can try to not perfect it but improve it. And me myself, obviously, I said, because that's what I was thinking about. So either way, I hope you're all well. I love you, and may Allah bless everybody, and praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.